I'm here on the banks of the River Usk in Wales. I'm waiting for the hatch to happen, so I'm just starting to set up my dry fly outfit in preparation for that. I'm hoping it's going to happen anyway. But in doing so, I thought I'd make a short video on my dry fly setup and how I choose to set up my my leader specifically. I get asked a lot about leader setup and, you know, turning over flies. I thought I'd bring that into a video format and hopefully help a few of you if you are struggling, or if you're looking to get into doing more dry fly fishing. Typical rod for the rivers here in Wales, 9 foot 4 weight. I've got the Loop 7X here. One of the first things is I like to accurately match the rods with the line weight. So a lot of people will underload just for presentation purposes. I like to have a line that loads the rod really well, so I like it accurately loaded. The reason for that is I prefer longer leaders, so I tend to work on the presentation of my leader rather than specifically a delicate presentation with my fly line. Of course I want a delicate presentation with my fly line as well, but I'm working more towards longer, lighter leaders more than delicacy in the, you know, in a finely or again underloaded fly line working on or helping the presentation. So down to the leader. First and foremost, attaching at the top end, I've actually welded a leader ring into my fly line. That's how I choose to streamline the whole process for me. I don't want a braided loop up there. You can just fish the normal welded loop if you want and attach your leader directly to that. What you will find though, it will bite through the fly line. It may not happen straight away, but after a few outings you will find that happens, and then you're left, you have to cut the welded loop and start afresh. Anyway, with the metal tippet ring, the leader ring, that again, you know, because it's metal, it doesn't wear the same as a fly line coating does, so I prefer to fish that. I've actually got a video on how to do that. I'll put the link above so you can actually have a look at that if you want to create your own or incorporate a leader ring into your fly line. Attaching that, then I'm keeping everything really streamlined at this point, and what I've got then is a Davy knot. So I use a Davy knot at this point, a single Davy, not a double Davy, because of the thickness of the diameter and the butt section. I'm quite happy with a single Davy at this point. So I've got a Davy knot, and that is then attached to my tapered leader. So I used to make my own tapered leaders. I've got multiple spoons of Maxima Chameleon just for doing that, but actually nowadays there's a couple of really good options on the market. You don't really need to do that, and obviously the benefit of using the manufactured tapered leaders is they haven't got knots compared to the ones if you're making your own. They will have knots in them, obviously. So but a couple of great options on the market. I really like the leader profile selector ones, and then most recently as well, Maxima have produced their own. It actually has a chameleon butt section, and then which turns into an ultra green towards the front end of that. It's actually integrated, again, no knots, but these two, you know, between these are the way to go. So butt sections on these, you know, you got a butt section, I can't remember exactly what they are, but it's like 0.5 millimeters, so it's quite a thick butt section. That's quite important because that's actually bringing through, carrying through the energy from your fly line into your tapered leader, okay? And you want that, you do want that to help turn flies over. So I've got that. I tend to fish these, so the Maxima ones are in 12 foot, and then the leader selector ones are in, I use the 15-foot models. Now I fish these really heavily, so they're 2 and 3x basically, so which would be 5, actually that's 1x in the selector one, so it's around 5 to 8 pounds or something similar. Now you're probably thinking, what a heathen, what's he doing fishing such a thick diameter? And you are talking about, you know, diameters of 0.2, 0.24, thick. Yeah, it is thick stuff. The reason for that is, again, I'm using the thicker section to carry energy through. So This is 12 or 15 foot depending on which one I'm using. So that's tapering all the way down. On the end of that, I've got a tippet ring. Okay, and on the end of the tippet ring, I'm then adding my tippet section. The reason why I'm tapering that down to quite a thick section, to the 7 pounds, 5 pounds, or whatever it is, the 0.2, 0.24, is I'm not putting the fly on there. I'm actually still using this as quite a thick tapered leader, and I'm tapering it yet further because the tippet section is then after that. Okay, so I'm using the rather than cutting back, you hear a lot of people using, buying the 15-foot leaders in £3, for example, then cutting back until you find the thick section and then adding your tippet onto the end of that. There's no point. So just buy the thicker ones to begin with, and then you won't need to cut back at all. So just from there, attach your tippet ring, and then you add your tippet section. So your tippet section from there on will be anything, most of the time, probably, most of the time I go down to 0.12, 0.13, but if I don't have to go down that fine, most of the time I'm on about 0.15. A lot of the time it's about presentation, not about the thinness of the leader material. A lot of people make that mistake. They think the fish have refused the fly because of leader diameter. A lot of the time it's not. A lot of the time it's actually either the fly itself or micro drag in general, presentation. A lot of it's down to that rather than actually the thinness. So dropping down the diameter of your leader material or your tippet material is actually your last resort. If you get everything else right, you shouldn't have to go down onto these 0.10s and all this kind of stuff. You shouldn't have to. You really shouldn't have to. So what I put onto the end of that, again, on the end of my tapered leader, little tippet ring, and then I've got my length of tippet material, and that could be anything from 3 to 5 foot or so. If I'm going longer, which occasionally I do, what I would usually do is I'd fish a thicker section off the end of that tippet ring. So I'd probably go maybe 0.15, 0.16, something similar off the end of that for a length, another tippet ring, and then taper off again onto my finer stuff. That can basically enables me to go 20 foot plus with ease. That may sound like a very long length, and yes it is, but actually it becomes very manageable with this thicker butt section, and the presentation is fantastic. So that's how I build that up. Okay, so again, 15 or 12 foot, but go with thicker ends, put the tippet ring on, and then taper thereafter. Okay, so that's the leader on, attached, ready to attach the fly. Perfect. What we then do, and there's a couple of tips from this point onwards as well. So first thing, you need this section to float high. Okay, so there's my fly line onto the thick leader material. You need this section to float high in the water. You want this, you want to be able to control this if you need to mend the leader material, hold the leader material above the water surface, and you don't want this dragging under the water surface, essentially bringing down the fly, affecting drag. There's so many different things that can happen. You just don't want any of them to happen, basically. To avoid that, good old muslin green. I tend to just use the green stuff. So all you do is put a dab of that on your finger and actually start up on the fly line. Okay, I actually put the last couple of feet of fly line. I put a bit of that on. I just want that floating really. This is actually the airflow superflow. I think it's like the presentation or whatever. So they actually do float high anyway. But again, I'm just going to aid a lot of that. This thick material can break the water surface very easily. Okay, so rub it into that tippet ring and then rub it down that 15 foot of tapered material. Need a bit more, so I'm just going to add a bit more. Keep bringing it down, keep bringing it down, keep rubbing it in until you get to that tippet ring. Okay, so now I'm actually on my tippet material thereafter. Okay, so I've put the muslin from there all the way up to the fly line. So all the way up there. And you will need to apply it now and again. After that point, what I then do, mud. I got some Hunt's Original, good old Tom. This is great stuff. Put a little bit of that. This is not actually, so I'll get into this in a minute, but put a little pinch on your finger, rub that down onto the tippet section. Okay. So just on your tippet section, just rub that down. What we're doing with that is a lot of people make the error of thinking when you're applying mud that you're looking to sink your material. You're not. It's very, very difficult to break the water surface tension with very thin, or relatively thin leader material. To break the surface tension is actually very difficult. What this is actually doing is taking the shine off your leader. Okay, so I'm not looking to actually break the water, the surface film with this. What we're looking to do is to actually take the shine off the leader material, and you will see. So I tend to use the tapered leader is standard monofilament, but I'm using fluorocarbon. I got some G4 and G5 in airflow site free. I use this stuff for the tippet section. The reason for that, I want the abrasion resistance as much as anything. So fluorocarbon is going to give you more abrasion resistance. So people kind of go, oh, but you're fishing fluorocarbon, that sinks quicker. Yes, it does, but it needs to break the surface film in order to sink. And the diameters that we're fishing here, so again 0.13, 0.15 millimeters, thin stuff, you're not going to break the surface film. So people that keep saying, oh, you're going to break the surface, the fluorocarbon sinks a lot quicker. It doesn't come into play with this. It really doesn't, because to break the surface film with this stuff is actually really, really difficult. So don't think about fluorocarbon sinking. And again, you're not using fluorocarbon in this instance to break the surface film either. So this is thin stuff, very hard to break the surface film. That's all we're doing again with the mud, is taking the shine off it. But don't be afraid of using fluorocarbon for your tippet section. Again, that's just going to give you abrasion resistance as much as anything. So at that point then, so we've added probably 3 or 4 foot of tippet material. I'll add the fly, and that's all I do with the fly then. Depending on the fly, I really like the either Dillywax, or I like the Tiemco TMC Dry Magic, either one of those. Again, probably a bit of a strange one, I actually use this stuff on CDC as well. I find it actually works superbly well on CDC. But that's my dry fly leader setup. Again, nothing complicated, but it doesn't need or want to be complicated. It's a system that holds me in good stead and has held me in good stead for many years. I'm sure if you try it, you'll get on with it really well. If you do, please put the thumbs up in the video, and actually if you enjoyed the video, give it a thumbs up. I'll try and bring a few more of these instructional videos over the following few episodes, and anyway, I hope you enjoy them, and I hope they bring you luck on the river. Tight lines.